For decades, Australian music festivals weren't just events, they were rituals. They defined summers, built communities, and gave generations of people their first taste of live music magic. But now it seems like they're vanishing.
An unusually empty Big Day Out arena.
A massive Adelaide music festival's been axed.
It's the latest in a string of festival cancellations.
Groovin the Moo, Vintage Vibes, Splendour in the Grass and Falls Festival.
One of Australia's biggest touring music festivals has been cancelled.
Why are once massive festivals collapsing overnight? Is it corporate greed, monopolies rigging the game, skyrocketing costs, unfair policing laws, or have festivals just lost their relevance?
Shutting down, and it feels like we're starting to drown.
Falls Festival cancelled, Splendour in the Grass called off for 2024, Groovin the Moo scrapped despite nearly selling out in Newcastle, Bluesfest, Australia's longest running festival, ending in 2025 after 35 years because they just don't want to do it anymore.
The industry really needs help right now, and I just can't see the future, but not only me, but the whole live music industry, without real intercession from the powers that be.
Good Life Festival, which at time of recording was announced this morning to be going on an indefinite hiatus, which is Australia's biggest under-18 festival. Mountain Sounds, FOMO Festival, Big Day Out, Stereosonic, Future Music Festival, Esoteric Soundwave, Harvest Rock, Promise Village, Coastal Jam, Wine Machine, Festival of the Sun. There is so many more that we have lost in the last couple of years. Now look, it's easy to blame the economy, inflation, shifting habits, but when even the biggest, most established festivals cannot survive, something deeper is happening beneath the surface. So us here at Michael West Media, we love to follow the money, so let's jump into the economics of this festival collapse. Why are Australian festivals disappearing? Well, if you want to understand why Australian music festivals are failing, start with the money. Putting on a festival has always been expensive, but today the costs are out of control. So when we were doing this research, I came across this amazing report from Create Australia called Soundcheck 1 and 2, which focuses on the live festival music scene in Australia. So according to this report, the average cost to run a festival is $3.9 million. And those lucky enough to even just turn a profit make $731,579, with more than 1 in 3 music festivals reporting a deficit. That is a razor-thin margin in an industry where everything from insurance to security is bleeding festivals dry before the gates even open. So festivals aren't just paying for staging, lighting, and security, and the artist fees, the regular things, right? The basics have always existed as costs, but now they're battling hidden costs that barely existed a decade ago. And for many, it's proving unstable. Take insurance, for example. Once was a manageable business expense, has now become a death sentence for small to medium and large festivals. Public liability insurance has jumped up 500% since 2019. With the average insurance cost of large commercial festivals reaching almost $200,000. Okay, and get this right, for one festival organiser that they talked to in this report, their insurance premiums went from about $4,000 to $5,000 to $250,000. That is a 4,900% increase. That's not inflation, that's price gouging. And yet you see these insurance companies post record profits. For festival organisers, that bill can reach 6 figures very easily, assuming they can even source coverage. Some don't, forcing them to cancel before a single ticket is sold. And then there's this user pays policing fee, right? A uniquely Australian policy that forces festival organisers to cover the cost of police at their own events, often tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars before a single act takes the stage. New South Wales festivals face the highest policing fees in the country, with no transparency or consistency in how costs are calculated. Some festivals have been hit with last-minute hikes, shutting them down overnight with no chance to renegotiate or even appeal. Like I said before, the very day I'm recording this, Good Life, Australia's premier under-18s festival, has officially gone on hiatus, citing extreme operational costs as the reason. Despite being a staple for young music fans, rising police fees and insurance premiums, as well as production costs, have made it unstable to continue. A festival designed to give teenagers a safe space to experience live music is now another casualty of Australia's broken festival model. Now, this just didn't happen overnight. This has been a build-up of significant policies from our government. So do you guys remember the Gladys shut it down memes, right, from 2017?
I never want to see this event held in Sydney or New South Wales ever again.
They captured a moment in time where music festivals became a political battleground in New South Wales. After Defcon 1 in 2018, the Berejiklian government responded with punitive regulations, skyrocketing fees and excessive licensing requirements, all under the banner of safety. Yet they refused to do pill testing, which has proven to work. It was the same knee-jerk reaction that fueled Sydney's lockout laws, shutting down venues while ignoring systemic issues like harm reduction and over-policing. The backlash was so fierce that festival restrictions became a state election issue in 2019. And we all know who won that election. While there has been steps forwards, such as pill testing at Yours and Ours Festival last month, many of these punitive policies remain. And the Minns government has yet to address the crippling insurance and policing costs still suffocating festivals. Surviving costs are only half the battle. Festivals also have to gamble on artist bookings, right? So international acts now consume up to 62% of total artist budgets, despite only making 38% of lineups. Skip the big names and the ticket sales suffer. Book too many and a weak sales period can bankrupt the entire business. Meanwhile, there's also changing consumer habits, right? So fans are buying tickets later than ever. But festivals need an average of 71% of sales up front just to break even. This delay pushes organisers into financial freefall, forcing last-minute cancellations that fuel even more hesitancy. Even when tickets do sell, festivals still fight an industry rigged against independence. Festivals aren't dying because people don't love live music. There's always a demand for that. They're dying because the business model is now broken. So let's circle back to the changing audience behaviours, right? So festivals aren't just struggling with rising costs, they're struggling with disappearing crowds. For years, the 18 to 24 demographic were the backbone of Australian festivals. But now they're buying fewer tickets and waiting longer to commit to shows. We don't want to talk about the big C word, but obviously that and lockdowns caused a lot of anxiety around going to a show. This has changed people's habits. Then there's the affordability, right? Now, this report from the Australia Institute found that 52% of young Australians have cut back on live music spending due to financial strain. ABC News reports that rising rent, food and transport costs mean many can't justify $300 on a festival ticket, forcing them to turn to Afterpay and other credit services just to attend. Meanwhile, younger audiences tend to be drifting more towards intimate, experience-driven events, boutique day festivals, warehouse raves, city pop-ups, and not really massive multi-day festivals. Now, just a bit of a side note, but we are pricing young people out of their own future. The cost of living has become so extreme that basic survival, rent, groceries, bills now come at the expense of culture, community, and live music. This is the result of economic greed and asset hoarding, but that's a story for another time. So the corporate stranglehold. Let's talk about the giant elephant in the room. Corporate behemoths like Live Nation and Ticketmaster have entrenched themselves so deeply into Australia's music industry that they basically control everything. Ticket sales, venue bookings, artist management, the catering at gigs, and even the so-called service fees that magically inflate the ticket prices. They've built a vertical monopoly where fans are fleeced at every level. Independent venues are crushed and artists are left with the crumbs. Live Nation doesn't just sell the tickets, they own the venues, promote the shows, and take a cut at every stage in the process. Now, our investigations here at Michael West Media has revealed how dynamic pricing artificially spikes ticket costs based on demand, leaving festival goers priced out of live music altogether.
I love Green Day, but this general admission standing like at the back, 193. Okay, I don't want that because I'm 5 foot nothing. But legit, this is Marvel Stadium, which is a shit show to begin with, but seats here, $430 is f***ing ridiculous.
While Ticketek's stranglehold in the Australian market has led to outrageous service fees and shady resale tactics, all while squeezing the very artists and venues that keep the industry alive. Now, hey, this is Editing Josh here. I just saw this article come up on my news feed. Did you guys know that former Woolworths boss Brad Banducci, yes, that one,
I think I'm done, guys. I do this with good intent.
has now become the CEO of TEG, which is the owner of Ticketek. I don't know if the industry is going to be in safe hands based on the precedent of what we saw at Woolworths. I don't think they've got the punter in mind. But innocent until proven guilty, let's hope we see a good change. So what has the Australian government done? Not much. There's no real regulation around this. There's no competition watchdog with teeth, just corporate giants raking in billions of dollars while the heart of live music is becoming suffocated. More than 1,300 small venues have shut down since the pandemic, crushed under the weight of rising costs and monopolised ticketing, and now the same forces are coming for festivals. Did you know that Live Nation was given millions of dollars in grants to put on festivals, which they cancelled and didn't give the money back, quoting that they put it into other areas of the business? I mean, I feel like no private citizen would get away with that, right? And look, it doesn't have to be this way. Other countries are cracking down on ticketing monopolies and price gouging. In Australia, for example, Gordon Legal has launched a class action lawsuit into Ticketmaster and Live Nation, examining whether their dynamic pricing practices amount to deceptive, misleading, or unconscionable conduct, like we've seen in the United States and Europe. Will Australia finally hold these corporate giants accountable, or will we keep letting them run the show? What happens if there's no more show to run? Look, it's really easy to be a whinge merchant and all doom and gloom on this, but there is a silver lining in a lot of this. Live music in Australia isn't dead, it's just fighting to survive. While many festivals are collapsing under soaring costs, some are proving that there is a way forward. Notfest and Good Things are thriving thanks to fiercely loyal fan bases and quite smart programming. Unlike the mainstream festivals that rely on casual attendees, heavy music fans see their scene as a community and an identity, making them more likely to commit early, travel for shows, and spend money on merch. Promoters like Chris O'Brien have adapted by focusing on proven ticket sellers, international headliners with dedicated followings. Heavy music also transcends generations, meaning that these festivals attract die-hard fans from teens to people in their 50s and 60s. So what happens now? Now, for once, the government is acknowledging the crisis, as a new parliamentary report has recommended some key reforms. Right, so this report is Am I Ever Going to See You Live Again?, which is a bit dated in its reference, but I get the enthusiasm. Am I ever gonna see your face again? So the report puts forward 20 recommendations, from a tax offset for live music to banning extreme dynamic pricing to a ticketing levy that could fund small venues. It calls for a minimum artist pay at public events, a live music voucher scheme for young people, and even rules to make big international tours include local acts. These reforms are long overdue, but they won't fix everything. Festivals still need fans to show up early, not at the last minute. Waiting for the final week to buy tickets isn't just a risk, it actually kills events. It forces promoters to cancel due to weak pre-sales. And the industry does need to learn how to adapt. The age of bloated, high-risk mega festivals is fading, but smaller, sustainable, experience-driven festivals are proving that a new model is possible. This isn't just about promoters losing money. Every festival that shuts down is a loss for fans, artists, and even an entire cultural ecosystem. But here's the thing, right? This isn't inevitable. Festivals aren't dying because people don't love live music. They're dying because the business model isn't stacking up. So there's actually two parts to this investigation that we have here at Michael West Media. In part two, we're actually going to dive into how grassroots festivals are not just surviving, but thriving, and what lessons the rest of the industry can learn from them. We sit down and chat to some festival organisers and get their opinions on the current climate, as well as how they've managed to survive in such a toxic ecosystem.
We're going to talk more about, where festival is at and the health of festivals in this country, then that small to medium-sized community festival, from what I read and the data shown, is they're probably the ones that are surviving.
Try and incorporate local music and expose local music to the masses, basically, and we may get one headliner, but it's all about exposing local music to the masses.
So look, I wouldn't be much of a musician myself if I didn't put a little bit of flair into my videos. So unlike Michael, I'm going to offer you guys something a little bit different. We're going to end this video in true musical kid fashion by playing a song for you guys. I asked a friend over, James, to help sing with me, and let's see if you guys like the result.
An unusually empty Big Day Out arena.
A massive Adelaide music festival's been axed.
One of Australia's biggest touring music festivals has been cancelled.
It's the latest in a string of festival cancellations.
Groovin the Moo, Vintage Vibes, Splendour in the Grass and Falls Festival, all of them.
Party in the Plains in Deniliquin.
Coastal Jam was one of the many lesser-known events that didn't go ahead this year.
We heard on the news that it's cancelled, but we haven't heard anything from the blues people yet.
This weekend's festival will be the last.
So disappointed and so devastating.
It's going to be very difficult for venues to survive.
Falls has fallen, Splendour is dead. Blues Fest took its final breath. Groovin the Moo can't take it to a farm up town. Yours and ours has thrown the cage. Milk's past is used by date. Sound waves gone. Tentpole snapped. Big day out, ain't coming back. Venues crushed, lineups fade. Gritty hands still getting paid. Feds priced out, bands get screwed. What are we to do? Doors are shutting down, and it feels like we're starting to drown. Leaving workers without pay, screwing musos every day. No crowds, no lights, no sounds. Shows are shutting down, and it feels like we're starting to drown. Leaving workers without pay, screwing musos every day. No crowds, no lights, no sounds. Shows are shutting down. Shows are shutting down. Feels like we're starting to drown. Feels like we're starting to drown. Workers without pay, screwing musos every day. No crowds, no lights, no sounds. Right?